Joining us tonight to take all of this up, Byron York, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, Fox Business contributor. Byron, it's an exciting night for the Democrats. They're going to find out what money can buy. What do you think?
Well, there's really some extraordinary things going on. Today, Michael Bloomberg's strategy team released a memo kind of assessing the race and suggesting that Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, and Amy Klobuchar all get out of the race. Just quit and leave this to Mike so he can beat Bernie Sanders.
Well, what was the bounty? What's Bloomberg willing to pay them? What is it?
That's a good question. I mean,
$1 billion
this is a
apiece,
candidate.
you probably got a deal.
He can make it happen. This is a case of a candidate who has not been on any ballot yet at all, and who skipped I mean, they're having the debate in Nevada, but he will not be on the ballot in Nevada, nor will he be on the ballot in South Carolina.
Well, aren't these things really just formalities? I mean, being on the ballot. I presume at some point when you put how many billions of dollars into it, the DNC will simply anoint you at the proper time and place, preferably before the convention.
I disagree. Obviously, being on the ballot matters because campaigns often do not, even if they've been highly touted,
You're thinking voters should have a role in this?
They often do not survive contact with voters. Look at the Joe Biden campaign. I mean, he's the front runner forever and ever and ever, and he does not really survive contact with the voters of Iowa and then the voters of New Hampshire. He might still be alive, I'm not saying that, but he had a really rough time when voters came into the picture. And that's what we haven't seen. And Michael Bloomberg skipped the first 4 contests, really skipped the first year of fighting, even though he says he's a real fighter.
Well, I love the Marquette professor who had an op-ed in the Washington Post today saying really that we should give more power to the elites, let them make the big decisions rather than all of us, unwashed voters who like to participate in the choice of our president, our senators, whomever.
Look, there are clearly some Democrats who are just unhappy with the way things have worked out. But the fact is, Bernie Sanders got the most votes in Iowa. He got the most votes in New Hampshire. He appears to be doing well in Nevada, although we really don't have much reliable polling there. Appears to be doing well there. And in national polls, his lead actually seems to be increasing up to 32% in some of the latest polling.
Now,
so
that's a dangerous thing you're doing there, as you well know. I mean, when we start relying on these early polls, and particularly national polls, with scant margins for error, that is, large margins for error, that can barely be, I mean, I just really am distrustful of them. This is where I like to see the voters actually produce what those polls say. We saw in 2016, they didn't know what the hell they were talking about. My guess is it's going to happen again. I know you're quoting them. What do you really think of them?
Well, the polls said that Bernie Sanders was going to win New Hampshire, and he won New Hampshire, although by less than the polls had said. Nevada, it's really, really difficult. It's a caucus. It's difficult to poll.
Who won in Iowa? I forget.
Well, Bernie Sanders got the most votes, and by the complicated procedure which the Democratic Party of Iowa uses to calculate what they call SDEs, or state delegate equivalents,
it has the
Pete
same.
Buttigieg had a very small edge.
Yeah, Buttigieg with an edge. It has the same smell as 2016 for Bernie Sanders supporters, I'm sure. The stench of the DNC adjusting to new realities, specifically the money of Michael Bloomberg, is clear for all of his Bernie's army to see. This is going to have an impact of its own. Here is Bloomberg telling people to get the hell out of the race. He hasn't got a single vote cast in his name. He's bought his way onto the debate stage, and just who the hell is anyway?
And I will say he is the perfect villain for Bernie Sanders and for Elizabeth Warren. I mean, how many times does Bernie Sanders refer to millionaires and billionaires in his stump speeches, his debate appearances? Michael Bloomberg is the guy there. He said all of this stuff we've been seeing coming up in the Oppo research, and there's a whole lot more. And he obviously he was a Republican before he was an independent, before he was a Democrat. There's a there's a lot of opportunism going on there. And the
well,
reason
there's a lot
Bernie
of growth, one would say.
Growth.
Evolution.
There you go.
But he
The
had
reason
it
Bernie
right the
Sanders-
first time in the minds of many.
The reason Bernie Sanders supporters love him is they feel that he's been consistent forever and ever and ever. So, he went to the Soviet Union for his honeymoon, and he's, still a socialist.
I still think
so,
there's a song in there somewhere about going to Moscow for your honeymoon. But let's put up very quickly the money that's been spent to this point. If we could see this screen, Michael Bloomberg. I mean, it dwarfs the rest of the field. 344 million. He's only been in, what, a month or two?
Yep.
Tom Steyer, 154 million. Sanders, poor Bernie, a lousy 51 million. Buttigieg, 34 million, as is Elizabeth Warren. Then you get down to poor Joe. Joe Biden, a lousy 23 million.
Let me say one more thing about contact with the voters.
Sure.
I don't know if you have watched any of Bloomberg's actual appearances and his stump appearances. He gives a very short speech, only about 15 minutes, but let's just say he is not a very
Was there a joke in there?
No. He's not standing on a box or anything like that. He's not a very compelling campaigner at this point. And you have to remember that I've seen this on many campaigns. Candidates get better as they go along. They start and they're not very good, but nobody's watching much. Then they get all this practice and they get better by the time the campaign is really underway and there's a lot of attention being paid. Bloomberg is starting at the top. He has no time to improve and he's really not very good on the stump. We'll see how he does.
Yeah, well, we'll see how $60 billion does as well. Let me very quickly, as we wrap this up, this business with Barr. Here is a man who's taking on his president in public. He's wrong. The president is right. He's complaining because the president is using new media and Barr is using old media to complain about the president using new media. The president is right. He has the authority over the Justice Department. What the hell is wrong with Barr?
So the Barr went on broadcast television to complain about the president's tweets. I agree with you on the media thing. Look, I disagree with you on the fact that the fact that the president's tweets do cause trouble for William Barr. And
I love a president, whether it's FDR or whether it's President Trump, Byron, talking directly to the American people. They, as FDR did, President Trump has changed history by communicating directly to the American people, and you know that.
Look at the substance of this. A lot of prosecutors say that the suggested 7 to 9 year term sentence for Roger Stone really was excessive, and that 3 to 4 was much more. By the way,
the facts show they're excessive.
And Bill Barr took care of this. He actually had the Justice Department change its position.
The misfortune for him was he didn't take care of it until the president had already pointed it out the day before.
He says he was doing it before the president.
I am sure that he
tweeted.
Was, but I'm saying, unfortunately for him, the president had already made his call.
Well, if Barr was in fact doing it before the president spoke out
take him at his
publicly,
word.
then it makes Barr look bad because it all seemed to be about the same time, and very, very easy for all of the enemies to say that the president changed Barr's position on this.
Yeah, well, they're going to say whatever the hell they want to in any way detract or attempt to destroy the president, and now William Barr. And Barr had better understand his friends happen to be in the White House and happen to be his boss. And the Constitution says he is the boss. We agree on that, right, Byron?
We absolutely agree, but let me say one more thing, which I think is...
You've got the doggone...
Of course the president has the power to do this, but in some ways, President Trump needs Barr a lot. He's
of course
he
does.
Very effective attorney general.
Barr does not want to go into history to the place where he's headed right now. I guarantee you that. This is a mistake on the part of the Attorney General, and he needs to move forward and do his job. And that means take the dirty, rotten, politically corrupt SOBs in that Justice Department and the FBI and put them in jail. Byron York, you did have the temerity to disagree with me. My goodness. Great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Lou. Appreciate it.